Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another episode. So today I wanted to talk about that you guys need to stop getting excited about crumbs. Yes, I'm talking about breadcrumbs from your specific person, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific person. It could be from a job. It can be from when it comes to money. Just take it whatever applies, okay? But basically, I was very inspired to do this episode because earlier today, basically, I was watching a really touching and heartfelt video by Kim Velez. I don't know if a lot of you guys might not know her, but I think she still kind of teaches the law of assumption, but I think she's kind of going into a new direction. However, she still kind of is a pretty popular law of assumption coach, okay? That I do still deeply admire her. But basically, I came across a video of hers about how, a lot of women who still settle for crumbs, and a lot of times we just don't see it. And hey, I'm not trying to point the finger at you guys, but I was definitely a victim of this as well too, okay, in the past. So if you've been stuck in situationships, breadcrumbing dynamics, and you may be in this state of hoping that your person will just finally change, this video or this podcast is definitely going to be something I feel that's going to help a lot of you, okay? So, let's get into it. So, I'm actually going to start off with, I've mentioned him a few times now in a few of my podcasts. As some of you guys already know me and have been following me, and been listening to my podcast, I've been talking about, let's just call him Taz. I mean, that is his name. Yes, it is his name, but, that's all I'm going to refer him as. But this was a person that I was involved with, romantically speaking, on and off for several years. I would say as far back as I met him back in 2014. We were both in college at the time. And then we took a long break from communication. I forgot why. It just kind of broke down. But then we had reunited back in late summer 2017 from what I remember. And it's been on and off since then. But anyway, if you guys don't already know, I mean, I have told you a little bit of history about my situation with him. But he's the best example I can give in this situation. But anywho, so let's just call him the breadcrumb king in this in this episode, okay? I know it's probably going to be kind of I know I probably shouldn't call him that, but it's not to make fun of him, but it's definitely going to make a very valid point in this, in this podcast. So basically, as I said, I was actually in a situationship with him on and off for a very long time, up until about 6 months ago, I want to say. And honestly, let me tell you, he was the epitome of breadcrumb behavior. Is that how you say it? Epitome? I guess that's how you say it. I don't know. But basically, our situation was we only saw each other pretty late at night most of the time. I would come over his house. We would have very deep conversations. We would, things would definitely go further than just deep conversations. I mean, not in a bad way, okay? Don't get your panties in a bunch. All right. and things of that nature. I definitely had felt like I had deep chemistry with him, and of course I've told you guys I had obsessive thoughts where I kept thinking about him a lot. And, I always had those thoughts of like, oh my God, where is this going? Is it going to get anywhere? Cause I just really was comforted by his demure, his like just the way that he would approach me and just this calm gentleman like manner. I don't know, it was so weird, but like, because he's not a bad person. It's just that his behavior was just not the greatest. Okay. But basically, our dynamic would be where I wouldn't hear from him for weeks, sometimes months. Oftentimes, so for example, like I would come over, right? And we would spend like 3-4 hours, maybe a little bit longer than that. And, we would have a good time. And then eventually I would have to come back home or whatever. Right. And then like, he would kind of do like a check in with me. He'd be like, hey, good morning, good afternoon, whatever, just to kind of check in with me. And, we would kind of talk, for a little while throughout the day, because he's usually doing stuff, whatever. Right. But after that, even though I already knew his patterns anyway, right, where I wouldn't hear back from him at all. Like it would be weeks. Sometimes it would be several months. And here's the thing, like over time, and I mentioned this before in a previous podcast, where like over time, because initially it used to be where he was the one reaching out. But then as the years went by, it was pretty much where there would be dead silence for several months and until I would be the one to reach out, basically, right? So there wasn't really any, give and take in that situation. Okay. And of course, like during those periods of weeks and months where I'm just like kind of wondering what's going on or whatever, I would just be questioning myself, like, did I do something wrong? Or, I would just kind of be like, well, maybe he has a lot going on. I would just be in this unsureness of where I stood in the relationship. Now, I know a lot of you guys can definitely relate to this kind of situation, right? And, and so basically the cycle would just repeat, basically, like, and the thing is about it, you guys, is like, our dynamic was where we never really been out with one another. I may have been out with him, like, I kid you not, probably no more than 2 times out of the whole entire time I've known him. Right. And that's about it. Other than that, it's always been like at his home, pretty much. Right. We never built on anything. I was definitely emotionally hooked, and all he had to do was just talk to me, which he would, you know what I mean? So like whenever he reached out, he never would ignore me. So I guess I can give him that, right? Like he never did ignore me or anything, but it would just be where, we would just kind of talk, catch up. And then whenever he wants to just see me or whatever, it would just happen. And then that would be it. But basically, whatever that connection was, trauma bond, which it was a number of things, you guys. Basically, all it really was just a cycle that I kept repeating for years. Okay, longer than I should have. I know I didn't have to be in that, but I just accepted it because I wasn't aware of my worth all that time. Okay. And, during all those years, I accepted Crumbs thinking that it was love when it really wasn't. Okay. So that's my story. Long story short. I know that was kind of long, but I have to give it to you guys somehow, some way. Okay. So switching subjects here a little bit. Here's the thing, okay? So then, because this is going to go right into my next topic about this situation where when we like to call movement, aka it's actually just manipulation, okay? And so, like I said, and I know I mentioned this a little bit before in another podcast where I was definitely a participant of the law of assumption community. If you guys aren't already aware of it, it's been around for a few years now, and it's gotten pretty popular over time. And, I've listened to a numerous amount of LOA coaches because, basically when I got myself back, when I first got into it back in like 2021, it was like December of 2020 when I first found out about this stuff. And I was in it for a few years, to be honest with you. And, going into that, listening to all these LOA coaches and whatnot, I'm sure you've, especially if you've been involved in the law of assumption community, who knows, maybe in the law of attraction, you might have even heard of the term or it's not really a term, but like maybe you've heard that any movement is good movement. Because, a lot of them say, like, let's say, for example, you received a text from your SP. That would be considered movement. AKA, that's actually a crumb. That's a breadcrumb. Movement is a breadcrumb. That's not movement. Like, who in the world came up with this stuff? Like, seriously. And of course, at the time, I had to interpret these terms and what they meant and stuff as I learned it, right? But, but that's just what they call it. But anyway, let me give you another example. Okay, so for example, maybe you're, and just so you guys know, a lot of people tend to manifest SPs. And if you don't know what an SP is, it's a specific person. It could be a new person. Sometimes in new cases, it could be a new person, but a lot of cases, people are trying to manifest an ex back or somebody they had been involved with romantically. Okay, just so you know. But let's just say that since we're using the specific person example, let's say, for example, they liked your story or they send you a random, hey, text. Oh, I used to get a lot of those from Breadcrumb King, especially when I reached out. I'm just saying, okay? Or let's say that they tell you that they missed you, but they still won't commit to you. And like I said, like, in the law of assumption community, you would be told by, the coach or whoever that would be considered as, that's movement. Oh my God. Right. But let me ask you something. Let's wake up for a second, you guys, because movement is only meaningful when it leads to consistency. Okay? It's not confusion. It's definitely not waiting. It's not another cycle of being emotionally drained. Temporary attention is not transformation, okay? Seriously, who said that love is just a text message, okay? Love is when somebody loves you, you guys, you don't just hear from them once every 6 months. I mean, I'm just saying, for example, right? Love is something you should get all the damn time, okay? Just saying. That's the difference here, okay? Just because your SP shows up after a few days or weeks doesn't mean that they're healed, ready, or capable of loving you the way that you deserve. Let's call it for what it really is. It's emotional bait, you guys, is what it is, okay? So the next part we're going to talk about is the harsh truth you need to hear, okay? Your specific person isn't changing from their core. Their core. C-O-R-E, you guys. Okay? They're just showing up enough to keep you on that hook. And LOA coaches will not tell you this. But I'm certainly going to tell you, especially if you started questioning things like I did. Okay? Because don't get me wrong, you guys, when you're really especially when you really, really want somebody, you would literally do anything to happen. And I would, to make things happen. And I was one of those people. Okay? I was desperate to try to get the breadcrumb king to love me, to want to commit to me, all this stuff. Okay, so I've been there. But here's the thing. Some people will never give you the love you want, no matter how many affirmations you chant and say in the mirror, or how long you visualize, because visualizing, scripting, and affirming is pretty much the top three ways that you can manifest. I mean, there's several other ways too, but you get my point. Okay, especially if you've been in the community yourself. You can't manifest somebody into being emotionally safe or available, you guys, if they're committed in their own inconsistency. Let me repeat that because I feel you guys need to hear it. You cannot manifest someone into being emotionally safe or available, in other words, if they're committed to their own inconsistency. Okay? I had to learn this the hard way. All right? And what I've learned is this. The version of me that was chasing, hoping, and hanging on for signs like 888, 111, 222, 555, or their name being on a license tab. I'm just saying, these are the common signs. Or somebody who looks just like them. Oh God, I used to run into that too. Oh my God, it was nuts, you guys. But anyway, as I was saying, the version of me that was chasing, hoping, and hanging on for signs, she wasn't aligned. She was attached. That's the issue that I had. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of you may still be stuck in. And that's why I'm talking about this today, because I really want to help you. Hence, my free 7-day secure self journal is definitely going to help you shift out of this attachment. Okay. And I'm coming out with a whole lot more material that's definitely going to help you guys too. Okay. So here's the new standard that needs to be set, you guys. Okay. Real love doesn't confuse you. Like I said earlier, right? It does not breadcrumb you. It does not keep you guessing. So if you're still calling, I'm sorry, get my words right. My words all over the place right now. So if you're still calling, he liked your post or he viewed your story on Instagram or something, and naming it movement, all right, please know it's not alignment. It's not love. That's residue. You don't need another test. You need a new standard, or maybe some boundaries in this case. Let go of the fantasy. Let go of the potential. Let go of the version of them that only existed in your head. AKA, let go of that version of who you really wanted them to be. You got to come out of love with that version of them, you guys, because the problem is with me that I had for a very long time with the breadcrumb king is that I was stuck in the fantasy of who I wanted him to be, not for who he truly was. There's a difference, okay? Because the moment you stop getting excited about crumbs, the whole entire loaf of bread finds you. Okay? So we're going to close this out. Now, just so you guys know, this episode is not to make you feel ashamed. It's meant to wake you up. You're worthy of a love that shows up fully, without scripting, without the struggle, and without you having to beg the universe for scraps. Okay? If this hit home, please share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're finally ready to detox from the crumbs and reclaim your power, stay tuned for my upcoming journal, which I'm actually working on a 28-day to detachment, decentering men journal. Okay, you guys, it's going to be coming out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But for now, check out my 7-day secure self journal. That's free. That's going to be in the description box below for you guys to download. Okay, check that out. Until next time, stop chasing crumbs, queen. You're the whole damn table. And with that being said, thank you so much for listening, you guys. Until next time.